Someone told me long ago there's a coming for the storm. I know it's been coming for some time. When it's all the same, it's rain or sunny day. I know, shining down like water. I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? The lights are all down, I see who's around. One way or another, I'm gonna find you. Gonna get you one way or another. I'm gonna win ya. I'll get you one way or another. I'm gonna see ya. I'll meet you one day. Maybe next week I'm gonna see ya. I'll meet you. And there the lights are all out on. Follow your bus downtown, see who's hanging out.
Good morning. Good morning, my dear friends. Querido ministro, autoridades, representantes de los partidos políticos, South Summit partners, speakers, investors, startup competition, finalists, and beloved attendees. Welcome to South Summit 17. Lo primero, ministro, darte mil gracias por acompañarnos en este acto de apertura de South Summit 17, a pesar de tu complicada agenda de hoy. Ministro, aquí tienes mucho del presente de la economía española y, sin duda alguna, su futuro. Aquí están los emprendedores, aquí están las corporaciones que han sabido aliarse con los emprendedores para fortalecer su innovación, y aquí hay una buena representación de inversores de más de 100 países. 12.000 asistentes registrados, 650 inversores, 1.500 reuniones de negocio organizadas directamente por el equipo de South Summit, 34 billones de dólares listos para inversión y más en búsqueda de innovación. South Summit es un escaparate al mundo de la España innovadora, creativa, optimista, vibrante y que mira al futuro. Ministro, tu presencia esta mañana en South Summit demuestra tu apuesta por el ecosistema y tu convicción del papel clave de los emprendedores en el desarrollo económico de España. Thank you very much, Minister, to be here with us. And please, as you have to leave immediately for your agenda, I would like to introduce you and come here to speak to all of us. Thank you very much.
Good morning to everybody. Buenos días a todos. Dear Maria, thank you very much for your words of introduction. General directors of the global sponsors. It is an honor to open up the 4th edition of the South Summit in Madrid, a forum that promotes the development of innovative business projects and relevant corporate alliances at the international level. A clear piece of evidence that Spain is at the forefront of innovation, technologically, in change and entrepreneurship. I would like to thank the organizers for having actively contributed to the so-called 4th Industrial Revolution over the last 5 years by bringing together a wide range of participants in the business creation and innovation process. Let me start, if I may, by giving a brief picture of the global and Spanish economic context before stepping into the phenomenon of the current digital revolution and the role startups are playing in this regard. The global economy is recovering at a sustained pace. This economic upswing is broad-based. Indeed, both advanced economies and emerging markets are positively contributing to the upward trend of the economy. However, risks to the growth in the medium term are still tilted to the downside due to a wide range of factors. First, a potential global fragmentation. Secondly, a more rapid than expected tightening of monetary policy in advanced economies in a context of highly indebted, leveraged economies. A low productivity era that negatively affects potential output growth, and finally, a variety of non-economic factors, including geopolitical tensions and extreme events, among others. The economic performance of Europe is a good example of the current upswing in the global economic activity. In fact, Europe is already outperforming the US in terms of economic expansion. And thanks to a structural change in the growth model of our economy, the Spanish contribution to this economic recovery in Europe has been outstanding. Over the last 3 years, Spain has been growing above 3%, and we have laid the foundations for the economy to keep growing at a sustained pace over the next decade. Increased competitiveness, a strong job creation capacity, and a more efficient resource allocation are specific and particular features of a renewed growth pattern in Spain. Let me now move to the fourth industrial revolution, a technology-led transformation that is having a non-negligible impact on both the economy and our lifestyle. The digital revolution is meant to be broad-based, affecting a wide range of sectors and individuals all over the globe. The automobile sector and the banking industry are some of these areas. For instance, fintechs are leading to a structural change of the financial sector, fostering competition on the supply side and better matching consumer preferences. The use of virtual currencies, big data, robo-advice, or blockchain technologies have already started to transform this industry. The digital transformation promises to bring in with it substantial gains in terms of economic welfare and social efficiency. The Spanish authorities are of the view that an integrated regulatory framework will be essential in order to fully exploit all potential benefits from the fintech revolution, while a wide range of stability of money laundering are prevented. The Spanish regulator was one of the first in adopting a specific regulation for crowdfunding platforms in 2015, 2 years ago. The Comisión Nacional de Mercado de Valores, our Securities and Exchange Commission, has authorized more than 20 platforms since then, and this sector continues to grow, providing alternative funding resources to households and corporations. At the moment, we are working on the transposition of the Second Payment Service Directive, as well as on the design of a regulatory sandbox to promote innovation in this sector. We live, you know much better than myself, in a world that advances at great speed, constantly finding new solutions to the problems of today's society. Startups are highly contributing to these dynamics. Corporations are increasingly aware that in order to adapt to this highly innovative environment, they need to go hand in hand with the startups. A number of big firms have already established partnerships with startups to be more competitive in a wide range of areas that include crowdfunding. These partnerships have the potential to generate significant productivity gains and therefore long-term economic growth and prosperity. Therefore, the Spanish government welcomes the organization of a highly recognized event in which all relevant actors are brought together, the South Summit. In fact, the strategy of this ministry is fully aligned with the spirit of this forum. One of our priorities is to bolster the ecosystem of startups and innovation with multiple instruments. This set of instruments ranges from funding facilities from CEDETI, ENISA equity loans for entrepreneurs, or the support for the internationalization like ICEX startups programs. By the same token, the South Summit has the mission to show the world the talent, innovation, and opportunities that the startups represent in the powerful Spanish entrepreneurial system. The South Summit is a main international reference for innovative and technological business development, with more than 3,000 startups from 100 nationalities, an accumulated investment of over 1 billion euros, and more than 150 venture capital funds and international business angels at this fourth edition. Let me conclude. The South Summit puts Madrid and Spain on the world map of innovation and entrepreneurship. We have 3 days ahead in which ideas will be transformed into future business projects. According to a recent study, an efficient implementation of all these new technologies could translate into a 100 billion euros increase of the Spanish gross value added in only 10 years. Only those societies that effectively incorporate new technologies in their economy and the social model will be able to successfully face the complex challenges that we have ahead. I would like to conclude wishing all the participants in these editions, companies, entrepreneurs, and investors, a successful development of this fourth edition of the South Summit, which will undoubtedly be a further step in strengthening the position of Madrid and Spain in the global ecosystem of innovation. Thank you very much.
Versionn. Thank you, Ministers. Wonderful to have you here with the morning. And this morning, welcome back to the 4th edition of South Summit. So excited to be with you here today. And I'd love to introduce back to the stage our founder, visionary, president, and creator of South Summit, Maria Benjumea.
To all of you. We are delighted to be celebrating this 4th edition of South Summit here at La Nave, our new home. This incredible business we designed as an innovation space to develop entrepreneurship, a perfect fit for us. Thank you to the City Hall for creating and collaborating with us as our partners and as our hostess. In only 4 years, South Summit has become the platform for innovation and business development of the startup ecosystem, a place where startups, investors, and corporations meet to share, engage ideas, and of course, make business. We have experienced huge growth at South Summit since we were both in 2012, from 500 attendees to over 12,000 registered this year. I want to say congratulations to our 100 finalists. You are all winners to us, not only because you really are our future, is because you represent the best and the brightest from the South. You represent our future. We have put together an exciting program, which we hope you will enjoy, with more than 400 speakers from 75 different countries, all experts in the area of entrepreneurship, investment, and innovation. 11 tracks and 7 stages. We have more than 150, as the Minister has said, international investors at South Summit, with more than 34 billion under management who are eagerly looking for the next big thing. We have over 100 corporate partners who year after year make this encounter possible. Corporates in Spain today are not only about innovation, they are doing it. Open innovation is now a reality for the top corporates who are here to do business with the startups community because they understand that they are the source of the next wave of innovation. Next Friday at 11 a.m., we will present the innovation thermometer, the result of the set of meetings among our partners in which they share with total honesty the do's and don'ts, the best practice, and the key challenges. Spain's ecosystem has come of age. 4 years ago, we made a bet on entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship has delivered. The Spanish startup ecosystem is international and competitive. Spanish startups are becoming global leaders in the industries. Companies like Cabify, Alienbolt, Privalia, Wallapop, Carto, and TicketBiz have a massive global footprint and are worth hundreds of millions of euros. Spanish entrepreneurs are talented, educated, and resilient, competing as well as, or even better, the most advantaged startup communities. The entrepreneurial mindset has taken hold on the Spanish people. Our creativity, ambition, perseverance, and sense of community has empowered us to lead and pioneer innovation in our industries. This entrepreneurial mindset will help us to solve any problem we might face in these changeless times for Spain and for Europe, We feel fortunate at South Summit to have lived this change and mindset and witnessed it. We live in exciting and complicated times. Technology has opened up a world of opportunities, but it also comes with its challenges. It's time for re-evolution. In entrepreneurship, we must take our entrepreneurial skills and apply them to all the issues facing society today. Entrepreneurship is an uniting force and the demonstration of leadership entrepreneurship. Its values and philosophy are an inspiration to the generation who will not only lead our future, but change it. Seize the opportunity in front of you and use these 3 days here at South Summit to revolutionize entrepreneurship. Revolutionize your business, revolutionize your ideas, revolutionize your network. For 3 days, we have brought the international entrepreneurship community to you. We already have more than 1,500 meetings set up. Make sure it is you who gives them a reason to come back. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you to IE University, our partners in crime from the very first days. Thank you for working hand in hand to make this possible and for your constant work to help educate the entrepreneur of tomorrow. Thank you to the Ayuntamiento de Madrid for hosting us and for believing, as well as we do, that Madrid can and is becoming one of the leading hubs for innovation. Thank you, Endesa, for leading the way with your framework for supporting entrepreneurs and for open innovation, your open innovation model. Your continued support is deeply valued. Thank you, Banco de Sabadell, Be Startup, whose innovative approach is changing the way entrepreneurs engage with the financial services sector. And thank you, Google, whose DNA breeds innovation and who has become an integral part of the Spanish startup ecosystem via Campus Madrid and its activities. Special thanks to Ferrovial, Amadeus, Adif, Ineco, Renfe, and Avianca, and all of our innovation partners that are here today with us to accelerate the ecosystem through business opportunities. Thanks to BBVA, Accenture, Guaira, Garrigues, Inditex, Coca-Cola, Bankinter, Carrefour, Bankia, Acciona, Decathlon, Correos, Gas Natural, Fenosa, SACIR, Televisión Española, Técnicas Reunidas, Mutua Madrileña, Iberdrola, Microsoft, Evo y Carat, who want to partner with the innovation community. Thanks also for our fostering partners, el Ministerio de la República de Argentina, Axis, Ruta N, CEDETI, Invest in Spain, ANCES y el Ministerio de Empleo y Seguridad Social, Lanzadera y Invest in Bogotá. Gracias a todos los medios de comunicación por difundir la potencia del ecosistema español por todo el mundo. And before I finish, I want to share with you that South Summit is now officially a global platform that connects the different regions from the South. This year, we organized our first event out of Spain. Argentina hosted South for Arts, and in November the 30th, we will organize First South Summit in Latin America, in Bogotá, within Alliance of Pacific, that brings together Colombia, Peru, Mexico, and Chile. Thank you to Impulsa Colombia, especially to my dear friend Juan Carlos Garavito. And last but not least, the values of an entrepreneurship are passion, perseverance, and hard work, and the key to success is the people that fight for it. None of this would be possible without the team behind South Summit. Best team ever, full of passion, commitment, enthusiasm, and hard work, who is always ready for the next big challenge. Thank you very much to all of them. My call to action to you today is seize the opportunity. Don't settle, dream big, and get down to business. We create the platform. Now it is up to you to get out there and go for the deals. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maria. So with my great pleasure, I'd like to invite to the stage Doña Blanca Montero, Regional Director for the Central Territory of Banco Sabadell. Gracias, Blanca.
Buenos días, autoridades. Bienvenidos todos a South Summit. Enhorabuena, María, y al equipo por esta nueva edición y muchas gracias por contar con Banco Sabadell de nuevo. South Summit es un evento muy consolidado que ha alcanzado una notable proyección internacional y que hoy es un punto de encuentro ineludible para startups y además players del ecosistema emprendedor. Banco Sabadell apoya a South Summit desde sus inicios. Un banco fundado por comerciantes y empresarios, en su día emprendedores, que durante estos 136 años siempre ha estado al lado de la empresa y de los emprendedores, ofreciendo un servicio personalizado, financiando sus inversiones y acompañándoles en su andadura internacional. Este es el motivo por el que somos patrocinador principal de este evento, porque colaborar con el desarrollo de la emprendeduría está en nuestro ADN. Las startups sois empresas que estáis empezando hoy, generando empleo, riqueza, innovación y progreso. Y de entre vosotras surgirán, y ya han surgido, grandes empresas. Las startups construís futuro y sois empresas que tenéis unas necesidades y unos modelos de negocio diferentes. Por todo esto es por lo que Banco Sabadell pusimos en marcha el programa Be Startup, para adaptarnos a estas necesidades y estar a vuestro lado desde los inicios. Tenemos 50 oficinas por toda España especializadas, oficinas Be Startup, gestores especializados, un equipo de analistas de riesgos también específico. Esto nos ha permitido formalizar desde principios de 2014 operaciones de crédito por más de 123 millones de euros y más de 2.500 startups nos han otorgado la confianza de ser nuestros clientes. También pusimos en marcha el programa Be Startup 10, que cada año invierte 1 millón de euros y apoya el desarrollo de 10 startups en fase semilla. También tenemos otro vehículo para las startups más avanzadas, Sabadell Venture Capital, que puede invertir hasta 2 millones de euros por compañía. En total, hemos invertido en 44 compañías en estos 4 años. Pero además de apoyar y proporcionar servicios financieros, hay otro motivo que nos impulsa a estar muy cerca de este nuevo ecosistema. Las startups también estáis transformando muchos sectores de actividad. Hoy aquí vamos a ver startups disruptoras que han revolucionado sectores mejorando la experiencia de cliente. Y la banca no es una excepción, como ya ha comentado también el ministro. Las startups financieras, las fintech, nos aportáis no solo tecnología, sino una manera diferente de hacer las cosas. En Banco Sabadell pensamos que es una oportunidad para nosotros y no una amenaza. Y como se trata de pensar distinto, como vosotros, hemos puesto en marcha también Inmocels, un nuevo hub de negocios digitales del banco que hace inversiones estratégicas y también construye nuevos modelos de negocio en colaboración con emprendedores y fintech, trabajando como vosotros desde una cultura ágil, simple, flexible, creativa y decidida a mejorar la realidad que nos rodea. En definitiva, en Banco Sabadell estamos muy satisfechos de relacionarnos con todo este ecosistema y de apoyar el talento y la innovación del país. Por eso estamos aquí un año más y lo podréis comprobar en nuestro stand y en todas las intervenciones que vamos a tener a lo largo de estos días. South Summit es un evento inspirador y vibrante en el que pasan muchas cosas. Un evento en el que todos tenemos la oportunidad de aprender de grandes casos de éxito. Un evento que concentra una gran cantidad de talento, de nuevas ideas, de grandes corporaciones y de inversores de todo el mundo. Os animo a aprovecharlo y disfrutarlo. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias, Blanca. And I'd like to welcome to the stage, please, Don Francisco Ruiz Antón, Head of Public Policy and Government Relations at Google Spain and Portugal.
Good morning, everyone. If you don't mind, I'm going to start in English. So first of all, welcome all of you to this fifth edition of the South Summit in Madrid. Secondly, thank you, Maria, for this great initiative and for giving us the opportunity again to participate in this opening session. It is a real honor. As you can imagine, Google could not miss the opportunity to collaborate for a fourth time in a row with South Summit, an initiative we share so many values with: innovation, creativity, and disruptive technologies. For Google, it is a pleasure to be part of an event created for entrepreneurs and startups, great contributors to our technological development, to our economic growth in this digital ecosystem. It is great to see how Madrid becomes again the South European spotlight of entrepreneurship, one of the international capitals of innovation. Now, given that we're in Spain, let me continue in Spanish. Les decía que es un honor compartir un año más esta formidable experiencia y tener la oportunidad, gracias al equipo de South Summit, de conocer en primera persona el resultado de la creación de los emprendedores del sur de Europa y Latinoamérica, que son los verdaderos protagonistas de este evento. Son ellos, sois vosotros los creadores, los emprendedores, quienes contribuís desde este gran ecosistema del emprendimiento al avance de nuestra sociedad y a construir un futuro mejor. Es el empoderamiento del talento y de la innovación, de la ilusión, de la creatividad y de la confianza. Conceptos todos ellos que acompañan al nacimiento de una idea, porque South Summit no es solo un escaparate donde se dan cita a empresas, emprendedores, inversores o instituciones, es un espacio de gestación de ideas, y ahí radica su singularidad. En efecto, ya lo ha dicho María, los más de 12.500 participantes de más de 100 nacionalidades presentes este año no solo van a disfrutar del espacio idóneo para entrar en contacto con inversores, también es una oportunidad para ofrecer el apoyo necesario a quienes están en pleno proceso de desarrollo de su idea. En Google, como saben probablemente, son varios los proyectos con los que pretendemos seguir en España la estela de la filosofía del South Summit. El principal, ya se ha dicho aquí, es Google Campus Madrid, un proyecto que nació con el mismo espíritu de colaboración que impregna este evento y con el objetivo de reforzar y apalancar aún más la presencia de España en el mapa mundial del emprendimiento. Con más de 2 años de actividad y con la incansable labor de nuestros emprendedores, países de todo el mundo, se han creado más de 2.300 puestos de trabajo por las startups allí asentadas, que han recibido financiación por más de 37 millones de euros para el desarrollo de sus negocios. También nos sentimos especialmente orgullosos con el programa Actívate, que pusimos en marcha en 2014 para que los emprendedores utilicen las herramientas digitales como motor de crecimiento personal. 3 años después, lo más gratificante son los 36.000 españoles que, gracias a este programa, han conseguido un empleo o han montado su propia empresa. Pero como ocurre en el ámbito deportivo, hay que trabajar también con la cantera para asegurar el desarrollo profesional de cara al futuro. Y es el reto que nos marcamos cuando arrancamos otro proyecto denominado Genios, que pretende enseñar a niños y niñas a programar, a crear tecnología y a desarrollar sus capacidades digitales con igualdad de oportunidades, reduciendo las barreras sociales y barreras de género. No quisiera terminar estas breves palabras sin reiterar mi enhorabuena a los organizadores del evento y expresar una vez más mi reconocimiento a la gran labor de María Benjomea y de todo su equipo. Gracias también a todos los emprendedores aquí reunidos por compartir con todos nosotros vuestra creatividad y vuestra confianza en el potencial de la innovación, pero sobre todo gracias a vuestra ilusión. No me gusta dar consejos, pero permítanme recordar lo que decía el genial escritor Mark Twain. Dentro de 20 años estarás más decepcionado por las cosas que no hiciste que por las que hiciste. Así que suelta amarras, navega lejos de puertos seguros, atrapa los vientos favorables en tus velas, explora, sueña. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Francisco. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage Don Javier Uriarte, General Director for Iberia for Endesa.
Good morning. Please let me first tell you how glad I am to be once again talking to you on behalf of Endesa in South Summit's opening ceremony. We are truly committed with South Summit, as this is the 5th time we participate in this event at first level. Dear Maria and all South Summit team, please accept my congratulations for the amazing job you have been doing during these years in order to develop our entrepreneurial ecosystem and position it internationally. The program you have put together for these 3 days and the quality of the startups competing are proof of it. In Endesa, open innovation is already within our essence, since collaborating with other relevant players have always been an essential part of our innovation approach. We have developed innovation projects with suppliers, research and technological centers, universities, and of course, startups. It has already been 5 years since we launched our first program to support entrepreneurs in the field of energy and discovered the potential startups had by providing state-of-the-art technology, new business models, and why not, a different way to do things to our already mature business. The energy industry has been evolving as never before for the past 15 years, and large power utilities like ours need to be able to adapt and change. However, this is not the only reason, as we do also have a responsibility towards our customers, the societies we work, and their economic tissue, and the environment, so that we need to further develop clean energies, optimize transmission and distribution of electricity and gas, and bring to end customers new uses of energy. It is so how we are active in fields such as electric mobility, not only at private but also at public level, smart and connected homes, big data to better understand our customers, and digital transformation in order to develop new ways to interact with them. It is also the case of the analysis of new technologies as blockchain, which we all expect to have major impact on many industries, energy among them. Endesa is not alone in this effort to work with the startups. As you know, Endesa is part of the Group Enel, a multinational power company present in more than 30 countries and reaching 60 million customers. Right now, we have under development 80 initiatives with the startups, from project innovations and proof of concept to market deployment, out of which more than 20 are under development by Endesa. This is nothing but a testimony of our quest to act as the best possible industrial partner for the startups, by sharing our experts' know-how and access to our facilities and labs network for testing and future developing solutions and services, as well as access to the markets we are operating. We offer startups a tailored collaboration approach based on the impact the solution may have on our business or customers and how developed the solution is. One of the key elements of the open innovation strategy of our group is the development of innovation hubs in those geographical areas with greater technological development and with a stronger impact for the group. This network of innovation hubs act as a bridge between startups and the group companies and business lines, scouting and developing those startups better able to tackle our innovation challenges and needs. Further, innovation hubs are responsible of developing the relationship with other relevant players of the innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem where they are present. Since the opening of the first innovation hub in Tel Aviv a year and a half ago, other hubs have been joining the network, such as the ones in San Francisco, Santiago de Chile, and Rio de Janeiro, and more are being set up. Such is the case of the Endesa Innovation Hub Madrid, which I have the great pleasure to announce today. With the creation of the Innovation Hub Madrid, the group reinforces its strong commitment with Spain and the development of the relationship with the local entrepreneurial ecosystem began by Endesa 5 years ago. An innovation hub that is born with the mission to scout startups not only in Spain and Portugal, but in all relevant entrepreneurial ecosystems in Europe, as well with the objective to help accelerate those startups identified by the group to be the most relevant and with potentially higher impact within its innovation strategy. The Innovation Hub Madrid is nothing but a new link with Endesa innovation process, a new link to further build on the cooperation among all players of our entrepreneurial ecosystem in order to have Spanish successful startups. It's an exciting commitment all of us present at South Summit share and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier. With my great pleasure, I'd like to introduce to the stage Don Diego del Alcázar, President of IE Business School, and Don Santiago Iñiguez, President of IE University.
Hello, all of you, authorities. We are very happy to be here, and as we have seen that you have plenty of time, we have decided to double our intervention in the next hours. For this reason, we are Santiago Iñiguez, the President of IE, and myself. Quiero decir que estamos muy contentos de estar aquí, de cada vez estar más empeñados y más próximos a esta idea tan fantástica que reúne a inversores de verdad de todas partes del mundo con empresarios de verdad que tienen proyectos magníficos. Esta es nuestra misión, es la misión que como universidad y como escuela estamos empeñados y realmente es el sitio en donde queremos estar. Nada más que agradecer al equipo nuestro, a Juanjo Güemes, a su equipo, a los alumnos y a los antiguos alumnos que cooperan en este proyecto, además de a la Fundación del IE, que de la mano de Carlos Mas apoya que sigamos empujando y apoyando esta iniciativa.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to share this stage with the person that I admire, that has been actually my reference in entrepreneurship, in education, the founder of IE, Diego Alcázar. Let me just endorse his words, and what I would like is, of course, to congratulate the founder of the South Summit, Maria Benjumea, whom I don't see on the first row. She's probably dealing with many different things in the backstage, but I guess that she deserves a very, soundest round of applause, because she's actually the soul behind all this. So would you join me, please, in this? And then let me just refer very quickly, because the important thing is what is going to happen afterwards, the different panels where many of our alumni and faculty members are actually taking part. What I hope is that you enjoy all those panels. Let me just refer to two things of our institution. IE, of course, has entrepreneurship in its roots, in its DNA. It's actually reflected in the profile of our graduates and students and our faculty. We run 28 different events related to entrepreneurship across the globe every year. Juanjo Güemes, who's the head of this department, is actually responsible for this huge activity worldwide. And we were ranked by the Financial Times as the top business school in Europe as regards entrepreneurship, and by the very influential portal Poets and Quants as the first educational institution in Europe in terms of funds received by our graduates. Anyway, what I wish you over these days is good business. What I hope is that you have the chance of meeting investors and other entrepreneurs to expand your ideas and business plans. So all the luck for each of you, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Santiago and Diego. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage Don Luis Cueto, por favor, the Director of the Mayorship for the City of Madrid.
Good morning. You will be very happy. This is the last intervention of this morning to begin the show, which you are willing to. So be passionate. Welcome to Madrid. On behalf of the Mayor of Madrid, Manuela Carmena, you are very welcome to Madrid. This is a very warm city. Hospitality is our main characteristic. City of dialogue. We are happy to receive you, all of you. Thank you to the team of Maria for choosing Madrid, not choosing other city to do this. We are very happy to receive investors, creators, startups to begin the road here. And I think that our main challenge is to convert this nave of innovation in the south of Madrid in a very deeply damaged with the crisis of his industrial characteristic of this neighborhood, to recover his energy, his capacities. The nave of innovation placed in the south of Madrid, it's our main bet to begin a new path to this. Your presence here is a good hope for this neighbor, for the city, and for the business in Madrid. We have a very impressive ecosystem in Madrid. Maybe you don't know completely, but if you visit Media Lab Prado, the most open institution of Madrid near Atocha, open to people, not experts. They're not afraid to enter by the door, because they are welcome and they are very well treated. This is very important. But we have also Google Camp, we have heard, and you will hear in the next days. We have Impact Hub, we have Intermediae, we have Factoría de la Innovación, we have Loom House, we have 15 universities, we have the CDTI, the most important institution of public investment in innovation in Madrid, in Spain, 1 billion every year dedicated to support innovation and R&D. My personal perception is that in Europe, and I'm speaking not as the general coordinator of the City Hall now, but for my previous experience in 4 years in the Minister of Innovation in Madrid, in Spain, that we have a severe problem in Europe with public funds, very rigid, very constricted by Brussels regulations. We need public money, of course, but we need private money. No many people knows that Spain has the same budget for public investments in innovation that Germany has. But we have third of the money private given to companies as Germany invests. We have talent. we need money. I think the money is here. The projects are here. Let's dance. Who knows what will happen after. Thank you very much for coming to Madrid.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Luis, and thank you to all the partners. It's wonderful to have you guys involved, without whom there would be no event. I would like to welcome out now our musicians. Guys, you on the way? Here we go. Nice round of applause. We can't have a tech conference without a band. Thanks, guys. So they'll be joining me for the day on Arena with little interludes and create the atmosphere to create interesting networking and good meetings to go on all this week. We're just giving a really quick stage change, and then I'll be right out with our opening intervention at the beginning of this program to open the official program of content for South Summit. So stay with us. We'd be right there.
Rolling on the river. Rolling on the river. I left a good job in the city, working for the man every night and day, and I never lost 1 minute of sleep, and I was worried about the way things might have been. Big wheel keep on turning, primary keep on burning. So rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Seen a lot of planes in Memphis, pumped a lot of tin down in New Orleans, but I never saw that good side of the city till I hit a ride. I never but I quit. Big wheel keep on turning, primary keep on burning. I said rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. You come down to the river, but you're gonna find some more people who live. You don't have to work 'cause you don't have no money. People on the river are happy to give. Big will keep on turning, as a primary keep on burning. As a rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. I said rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Keep on, da, 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 da.
Good morning, everybody. Woo! Thanks, guys. Now we're rocking and rolling. Get this energy up and get this atmosphere going. Guys, keep coming on the way down here now. Feel free to grab some of these seats at the front. Any seats with labels on them now, you can grab them. You can sit anywhere you like. Join us because you're not going to want to miss this opening session at South Summit 2017. We have a jam-packed program for you guys over the next 2.5 days across 6 different stages out there. So there'll be no opportunity for boredom and millions of opportunities to do business. Here on the main stage later today, you'll have interventions from the CEO of eDreams, from the executive chairman of BBVA, from Jose Marin, a super renowned investor who invests alongside Fabrice Grinda. We'll also have the chairman of BBVA VA. So it's a really exciting day happening here at Arena. And just to give you a bit of visibility on the other programs that are happening on our industry stages, we will have smart mobility happening this morning, fintech and new money happening a little later, content and channels also taking place this morning, and art and culture then this afternoon, followed by deep tech, art and culture, energy and sustainability tomorrow as well. So absolute jammed 3 days, and delighted to have you guys with us. It is with my absolute pleasure and huge excitement that I have the luxury of introducing our first guest to open the official program of the South Summit Conference this year. Our first speaker is one of the leading minds in technology in the technology industry today. And this individual was writing papers about distributed computing almost 20 years ago, before the terminology cloud computing even existed. We are really only at the tip of the iceberg in terms of the opportunities related to artificial intelligence, cloud computing, big data, and these new types of infrastructures that these incredibly disruptive tech companies are giving us today. These technologies are changing every single industry out there for every type of company, big and small. This individual leads the technology strategy since 2004 of one of the most disruptive technology companies out there today. And this company is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the greatest companies of our generation, and I think there's a lot of excitement about them being here today, but this excitement is going to go on and on and on and on, because I've no doubt they have massive plans and huge innovations that are still coming to market. It's my absolute pleasure, please, a very warm welcome for Vice President and CTO of Amazon.com and head of AWS, Werner Vogels. Lovely to see you. Thank you for today. No problem. Werner, how is that? They're a little bit small, but you know, they're kind of comfy.
We're wobbly as
It's a little bit steady. You can hang on to me. Thank you so much for being here. It's an absolute luxury to have you. We're so excited to understand a little bit about the inside world of AWS and the impact that it's made. And we're thrilled to have you with you to understand a little bit more about how you're thinking about the world of cloud computing and the future of technology as we see it. To kick off, can I ask you to, well, I guess, start at the beginning, right? Amazon is, I mean, we all know today's e-commerce company, right? Revolutionized how we're buying books. But how did we get where we are today? How did AWS emerge? Where did the vision come from? Is this something that you have in the back of your mind, maybe many years ago when you were a research in distributed computing?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to realize that Amazon is a technology company. I mean, we just happen to do retail. If you think about how Jeff started Amazon, it was not because he wanted to start a bookshop. He was fascinated by the internet. This is 1994. I mean, this is early days. E-commerce doesn't exist yet. And so he's fascinated by the internet because, and he just picked books as an example. A really good bookshop has 40,000 titles in stock, yet there's millions of books out there. And actually the only place where you could really sell, let's say, all the books in the world would be online. And so that was sort of what drove the inception of Amazon.com. But everything that we've done there has been technology, whether that is reviews or whether it's recommendations or all the things that we've been doing at Amazon is actually technology under the covers. Yeah? And without that, we would never have been able to scale to where we are. Now, with respect to AWS, there's a bit of history there. In early 2000, what we had done is we had opened up the catalog, so that's the catalog with all the products in it. Put an API on it that was popular in those days to see what kind of innovation would happen, what kind of businesses would start using the API. And it was really successful. Lots of new companies were being built. They did comparison shopping, new interfaces to e-commerce, things like that. But as soon as these companies started to become successful, they all started to stutter in their execution. Why? Because they needed to get investment, they needed to start buying servers, they needed to hire IT people, and as such, most of those companies eventually failed. Because they were not, that was not their expertise.
Their own success.
Internally at Amazon, we were organized as very small teams, almost like small startups. that each have their own, let's say, roadmap, their own innovation, and we had built technology for them to sort of so they could focus on innovation and not on all the boring stuff that you need to do as a technologist. So we looked at these companies that were failing and said, oh wait, but we've solved this for ourselves. Maybe we can start taking these technologies and bring them to the outside world in the hope that, what we would call in those days internet scale companies, that they could become successful as well. And so in 2006 we launched the first one, S3, which is storage service, the compute service in the fall of that year. And it's been extremely successful. So the idea that this was sort of Amazon just selling off excess capacity was never the case. Yeah, okay. It really was intended as a business by itself. And often when Amazon does sort of innovation, we really like to think about doing really big, bold bets. So yeah, you do this massive investment in this particular product, in this case AWS, and if it is going to be successful, it's going to be hugely successful. Yeah, and will have a significant impact on the balance sheet of the company. Yeah. And we've seen that over time. You know, we've seen these bets being successful with the Kindle, for example, or with fulfillment by Amazon, or these days with the Alexa voice service, for example. These bold bets really, if they are successful, they're hugely successful.
Sure, that's incredible. And it's incredible to see the growth. I mean, if you're talking about day one, it sounds like you were building for scale, right? So even if you were considering a bookstore, well, how would you have every book in the world available, you know, and powered by the technology under that? And also scaling, I guess, through the success of your customers. It's incredible to see, like, wait, if our customers are stuttering, it's going to stunt our growth, so let's help them to grow faster. Now, it's incredible how you guys are thinking about scale early on and from day one. Is that how AWS has grown so quickly? Can you give us an idea of the size and the opportunity of the company now, the types of services it's offering?
Well, first of all, I think we are, 10 years ago, I don't think I would have been able to predict where we are today. I mean, it's clearly that we really hit a nerve in how companies are being built and how companies want to use IT. So on one hand, this is amazing technology, and as a CTO, of course, I'm in love with that. But I think what was the major change driver was that we also put a radical different business model against it. Yeah, so as the CTO of Amazon, let's say not of AWS, I always hated dealing with vendors because I always felt that they were in charge. The only way to drive your costs down was to make very long-term contracts and to pay massive amounts of money upfront. And so, and once you had paid that money, they didn't really care anymore. And so if you want to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, which is easy to see how you do that in retail, we also wanted to apply the same principles to AWS. How do you become the Earth's most customer-centric IT provider? By basically giving control over to your customers, so that they're in control. Yeah, so they no longer need to pay upfront, they only need to pay afterwards. Yeah, you can shift CapEx to OpEx. You can make sure also that by using elasticity, that it's not just a shifting of money, it's actually having to pay less. Yep. And taking away all the heavy lifting and other pieces that make companies not differentiated. And I think one of the success factors there is on one hand the business model, but also the fact that everybody starts to realize that there's a certain level of IT that does not make you competitive. Everybody has to do it. There's a great paper many years ago by Nick Carr in Harvard Business Review that's called IT Doesn't Matter. He didn't mean that IT doesn't matter, but there is a certain level of IT that everybody else has to do. And as such, you know, it doesn't make you, any investment in there doesn't make you more competitive. And what we've seen, of course, is that on one hand, a massive take-up in the world of startups. Yeah, I mean, if you talk to the Airbnbs, the Ubers, the Dropboxes of this world, they will tell you without cloud computing, they would never have been able to get off the ground. Yeah, Pinterest, Slack, all these companies have been built on that. But it didn't take too long before enterprises figured out that this was way too good a deal for them as well. And we see massive moves over from enterprises into the cloud, and whether that is General Electric that will close 30 of the 34 data centers and move things over to AWS, and we see massive moves over here. But look, for example, here in Spain, for example, in financial services, Bank Inter, BBVA, Open Bank, but also the younger startups. I mean, we heard this morning about Wallapop, and for example, there's a very interesting company called Malaria Spotter that uses gamifications to count malaria cells.
Right.
And so here in Spain, and so there's amazing innovations happening across the board. Or already young businesses here that became successful, like Fon and like Hotel Beds, that all have grown up on the cloud.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And so it's across the board. I also think there's an interesting report from Harvard Business School on the impact on the VC community. Yeah, where, I mean, 10 years ago, before cloud computing, the kind of investments that you guys were making were larger investments, because companies needed a lot more money to get started, with high risk associated with it. But these days, there's a clear different approach with much more, what I would say, maybe it doesn't sound as well, but spray and pray. Where the investments are much smaller.
Cheaper.
Many more companies can get investments today than say 10 years ago. And as such, the rise of the startup community is also driven by the fact that VCs now have much more capabilities to actually support more companies.
Yeah, and you can get a lot further on that VC dollar, right? Exactly, given the infrastructure. I mean, it's incredible. So you're kind of replacing internal IT departments and that kind of capex expenditure that companies need. So I guess it's super attractive to be able to access the technology seamlessly, in a flexible manner, and that's most likely far cheaper and actually probably better performance maybe than what we've had to drive this change. But what I'd love to understand is maybe diving into a little bit deeper about your guys' innovation process. You said you guys work on very entrepreneurial small teams within the company, and AWS breeds innovation, and it's incredible to even keep up with the amount of product launch and different services that are there. Where does this agility come from, and these ideas and the creativity in terms of how you're building out products and services?
I think this, of course, has its roots in Amazon.com itself. We have a strong belief, for example, in the e-commerce world, that if we would stop innovating, Amazon will be out of business in 10 to 15 years. And not because there will be other large e-commerce companies stepping up, but there will be death by 1,000 cuts. You know, someone will be doing diapers better, someone will be doing shoes better. And as such, the company is still moving really fast in terms of in innovation, because it's our lifeblood. It's something that you see coming back with most other companies that will now want to go through, let's say, digital transformation phase for the same reason. Financial services companies want to become more digital because they realize that they're under threat from a lot of young startups that, for example, do international money transfer better, like companies like TransferWise or Coins.ph that are all serving very small parts of the financial services community much better. So the same goes for Amazon. So we need to still continue to move fast. So we have a whole set of processes around it. If you go back to the letter to shareholders from '97 that Jeff wrote when they went for IPO, he lays out the principles of the company. The first one is, of course, a very well-known one. It is sort of like, we're in this for the long term. If you're a short-term investor, do not invest in Amazon. The second line, however, is we will continuously experiment, measure relentlessly, and learn from that. And you know, the cost of failure should drive down such that we can do many of these experiments. And these experiments, you know, things are not an experiment if you really know what the outcome is. So we have a whole set of principles around how to do these experiments, how to move fast, how to have small teams that actually are all owning their own innovation agenda. Now for AWS, that works a little bit different. So if you're an e-commerce operation, you do this for your customers, you can experiment easily towards your customers. In AWS, it's a different world because other people build their business on you. So doing these experiments or building these new services comes with great responsibility because you're responsible almost for the business that others are running on you. So the processes there run slightly different. What we do there is when we launch a new service, we often launch it with a minimum feature set and then allow our customers to drive the roadmap of features that they feel should be added to the service. For example, when we launched DynamoDB, our non-relational database, we already knew that customers wanted secondary indices, but we didn't launch with them. We launched them with a smaller feature set and then let customers decide exactly which features they wanted to see added first. Important in all of this is that your customer is in the loop of the development of these services, of these features. Last year, we launched well over 1,000 new major features and services. Yeah, and so, we have now 90 major services in AWS, and each of them is in contact with their most important customer group and allow them to drive the roadmap and also change the roadmap if that's necessary. We also, I think what sets us aside from some of the other technology players in the cloud world is that something about Amazon, although we're really good at the technology side, I think what sets us apart from that is that we're really good in customer-centric product thinking. So, for example, when we start defining a new product or a new feature, we have a process called working from the customer backwards. What you do, the first thing you do is write a press release. That seems silly, there's not a press release that will go out. But in the press release, you write in very clear and simple terms exactly what you're going to build. Then you write the 10 or 20 FAQ questions, the frequently asked questions. Again, you have to answer them in very clear and simple terms. And often we iterate on that 10 or 15 times before you really have that clear exactly what you want to do. Then you write a document about how are my customers going to use this, your UX document, and then parts of the user manual. So after that, you have a set of 4 documents that clearly describe exactly what you're going to build from a product perspective. And as such, I think one part of the great success of AWS is that we build really good products that customers know how to use. And the days of where AWS was only, let's say, compute, storage, and databases are long gone. You know, everything circles around, for example, analytics, data warehousing, ad hoc analytics, IoT, mobile development, across the board, there's all these services that customers can use. And so it's not just the fact that you can get cheap capacity, it is that there's all these higher level services that you can now integrate into your applications that you don't have to think about anymore. Every website, every application has search integrated into it. You need to, because customers need to be, it's not a competitive differentiator, it's just something you have to do. If you don't have it, that's nasty. Before that, before cloud search and Elasticsearch were available for customers as services, everybody needed to run Solar and Lucene. And that was a nightmare to make those scalable. And as such, you had to invest people and technology into something that did not make you more competitive. Now you can just grab one service and do it for you. You no longer have to think about it.
And you're giving them more flexibility. I mean, they can test and try things. You're leveraging up their brain power and manpower now to focus on their core business.
And you can easily make mistakes. In the past, in the world of real hardware, if you had bought hardware, you were stuck with it. If you made a mistake and think, hey, maybe I am more CPU bound and memory bound, turns out that's not the case. In the case of AWS, you just click a button. Or, with 16 regions around the world and 6 more announced, customers can, with one click of a button, launch in Australia. Look at quite a few of the startups here in Spain, for example. They're not only targeting the Spanish market, they're targeting a global market.
Absolutely.
And that makes cloud computing makes that you no longer need to do these long negotiations with data centers in Japan to get started. It's a click of a button.
Well, that's what's incredible with AWS, because not only is it now facilitating maybe the larger enterprise do their transition into cloud and their digital transformation, but exactly that, it's now almost the fuel of the fire, right, of the startup revolution. We're advocates of that, right? The talent comes from everywhere and you can build global businesses now any part of the world. Why not Madrid, right? So it's amazing to see how you guys have it's like a perfect storm, really, in terms of timing and how this, technology's been made available, and then how you guys have managed to position yourselves as allies and friends and partners with your customers, many of whom are startups. Now, did you think about that, strategically? Was it more reactive because these companies were looking for cheaper, faster way to build things? How are you specifically working with the startup community in terms of engaging with them, and do they help in this innovative process about defining the future service roadmap for you guys?
Well, we've never seen ourselves as vendors. We've always seen ourselves in partners, where almost we are investing in these companies, helping them become successful. Trying to drive their costs down, for example. We have a whole set of programs where we help them from a technology point of view to find the right architecture, such that they can really keep their costs under control. For us, there is no win in actually squeezing an extra dollar out of a customer. Really, you rather have them actually reduce costs. We have reduced our pricing, 62 times now, I believe. Nice. And so without any competitive pressure, mostly because as our scale grows, our own cost basis goes down, and we do innovations in our data centers, and then we can give that money back to our customers. So, but also, for example, we continuously give our customers advice, often through automated tools such as something called Trusted Advisor, that they can run on their infrastructure, and says, oh, those are the 5 places where you can still save money. And so, working with startups continuously to really make sure that they spend as little as possible with us, but have a high rate of success, means that down the line, we'll be fine. If they're successful, we'll be successful as well, but we need to help them make successful. Now, we have a whole set of programs around it, with both in terms of business development. We have a program called Activate, where startups, as they qualify for, they get $100,000 in credit, they get business support, they get support from technologists, get support from partners. And so we continuously work with all players in the startup community to make sure that they're really successful. And also work with quite a few of the VC companies to make sure that we sort of often bring all of their CTOs together. So for example, on Monday I met with all the CTOs from Atomico. And so they've all come together, and sort of their shared learnings and lessons there that we can try to help them become successful.
No, and I mean, it's an awesome, and you're an awesome partner for the VC community, right? Because at the end of the day, you're bringing down costs of scaling. You're like this expertise in scaling partner for all these companies, reducing the capex, and of course, that's a huge help for ourselves, no? And it's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If this whole ecosystem, like a true ecosystem, is working well and feeding off each other, well, it's success for everyone. So I think that's a real fresh approach, I guess, where you're looking at not squeezing every client, but understanding their principles of success, and their success will be your success. So it looks like an absolute partnership model, I guess. Just to shift slightly, Werner, I'd love to you're so experienced, right? And you're so many years in this space, and you're looking at so many different types of technologies and opportunities out there, working with wide global networks of startup companies and what they're building. Where do you see this going? Do you think it's job well done? Do you think we're just starting out? How much more is there to do in terms of the opportunity within cloud computing? Now it's kind of more standardized. People are more familiar. Larger, more traditional corporates are starting to shift in.
So let's talk about the stuff that I'm really excited about, of that new stuff that's happening. I think mostly driven by the capabilities of cloud computing. What we're seeing is that forever, your computer interfaces or the interfaces to your applications were driven by the capabilities of the computer itself. A screen, a keyboard, a mouse, maybe your finger. Yeah, in essence, your cell phone isn't that different from the computers, from your laptop, because you do exactly the same thing. You type in. And so all of these systems have been built with a computer-centric interface. Yet the way that we like to interact with each other is through human-centric interfaces. We talk here. This is not a Slack channel where we're chatting. Yeah? And so what we'll see is that we'll see more natural interfaces coming to our digital systems. Voice, I think, is going to play a major important role in that. This is driven by capabilities that are now possible in the cloud. With something called GPGPUs, so general purpose GPUs, at scale available, very powerful NVIDIA boards, for example, combined with deep learning capabilities from platforms such as MXNet and Caffe and TensorFlow, that we now can process voice and other complex data streams at scale in real time that we could never do before. And so doing automatic speech recognition, natural language understanding, text-to-speech, all in real time is now possible. And so what you see is that we can now start to develop new interfaces to our digital systems that we couldn't do before. Yeah, if you're a young mother with a sick kid on your arm, you don't want to go to WebMD and fill out a form. Yeah? You prefer to scream to it. And so where interfaces are becoming natural interfaces. If we see the success of the Echo, but they're not necessarily, the Echo by itself is just an example device. The Alexa voice service, which sits behind it, is a cloud-based service. Yeah? People have extended that with 22,000 different skills. And also the individual components that sit in there, automatic speech recognition, natural language understanding, sit separate also in an AWS service called Lex, and Polly is the one that can speak back to customers. And you see that a whole revolution is happening because suddenly digital systems are becoming more accessible for everybody else to use.
Yep.
Yeah, for example, elderly people, if you've ever given an iPad to your grandmother, you know the only thing that she does is click that Skype button. Yeah? And so, however, if she could talk to the device, that will be something very different. Young kids that can't type yet have a natural way of interaction with digital systems.
Yeah.
Or in countries and places around the world where computers and maybe even cell phones are not readily available. We have a great AWS customer outside of Manila called the International Rice Research Institute. These guys know everything about rice, growing rice. There's 70,000 strands of rice in their freezer. And so they built a digital system to advise farmers about how much fertilizer to buy and when to apply it. These are small farmers. Built it as a web-based system, nobody used it. Why? Because none of these farmers have a computer at home or in the village. And they don't have a cell phone, they don't have a smartphone, maybe they have an old Nokia, and that's as far as it goes. Or maybe one phone in the village. So what they did is they put a voice system on top of this. Now farmers can call in from the village phone, describe their patch of land in language, machine learning goes off, comes back with an answer with how much fertilizer to buy and when to apply it. Yeah? Reduces the amount of fertilizer, by the way, by 90% and doubles crop yield, because none of these have ever been educated about it. But the success of this digital system is voice.
And
a natural, human-centric interface to digital systems.
Yeah.
So I think some of the things that I'm most excited about is not only how to build these interfaces, but how are we going to build our backends differently to support, for example, conversations, instead of just what we used to do in the past, where voice was sort of a command system, hands-free, that we were annoyed that we weren't allowed to use our cell phones while we were driving. But now we see integration of these voice here coming back into everything. Sonos integrates Alexa into its systems. GE puts it in their refrigerators, so you can talk to your refrigerator. Yeah, and so you will see that the whole environment where we are in is going to become active.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so not only from an input point of view, not only voice, but other things. If you're a smart home user or an smart energy user, if you have to look at a graph on your phone, that doesn't really change behavior.
Yeah.
However, if you have a clock on the wall that goes from red to green or from green to red, if you're not meeting your goals, that changes behavior.
Yeah.
And so all these new interfaces that we're going to get to our digital systems, I think is something that really excites me.
Sure, and it's a very simple thing, right? It's incredible to see this technology is now ready to go. Yeah. And on a final note, Vern, I'd love to understand how you're thinking about on that layer on top of that technology, taking it to the next level in terms of artificial intelligence, right? Yeah. So not only is it understanding what you're saying, it's actually able to bring together logic, and give you a correct answer, let's say.
I'm less of the science fiction side of things. Yeah, I think, first of all, we've been doing what we these days is called artificial intelligence for the past 20 years. If you're an Amazon customer, you've been continuously exposed to artificial intelligence, whether there's similarities, whether it's recommendations, whether it's we use it for inventory level setting, for price setting. We sit on billions of orders, so you might make use of the orders from the past in machine learning to make predictions of if a new order is coming in, if that is a fraudulent order or not, what the likelihood is of that. So machine learning is something that we've really been doing for the past 20 years already. That's just being smart with data that you already have to kind of make predictions about the future. And instead of coding an algorithm, you allow the machine learning systems to sort of find patterns in there. And that's all that it is. Yep. Yeah? And really important, by the way, Netflix, the guys at Netflix say that 70% of the movies watched on Netflix are driven by their recommendations. Basically, everybody goes sit in front of the TV and let Netflix tell you what you should be watching.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah? You're not really making your choices
so
anymore. It's nice.
The other thing that happened, I think, in the past 3-4 years in cloud is that the ability to do a subsection of machine learning called deep learning at much higher scale, such that you can do complex things like audio and video processing, or then all these other processings that you could not do years before. And so we'll see the integration of, for example, video and audio and voice into all the systems that we're building much more easily. The Amazon Go store, for example, where people can just walk in, take things off the shelf, put it in their bag and walk out again. Without that they have to check out and automatically get charged, is all driven by deep learning capabilities that we can now do on the cloud.
Yeah, amazing, and an absolute different way of doing things and a new way of engaging and communicating. Werner, I wish we had more time. Thank you so much for being with us here today. It's wonderful to get an insight into the great mind that is building these solutions. And thank you so much for supporting the entrepreneurial community here and everywhere else.
Okay, thank you.
Folks, thank you. Big round of applause. Thanks, Werner. Wow, there's a curious start to South Summit, talking about cloud infrastructure, big data, artificial intelligence, and all the different opportunities that are out there and what you can build solutions and companies on. We are going to go straight to our next speaker, who I'm really excited to introduce out onto the stage. This individual is a technology pioneer who's come in from the US to be with us here today. This next speaker is a professor of mechanical engineering at MIT, VP for open learning at the institute there. He oversees the open courseware, MIT X, MicroMasters, the new MIT Integrated Learning Initiative, and the World Education Lab at MIT. This next speaker is a serial entrepreneur, inventor, and researcher, and the creator of some of the underlying technologies and standard codes for RFID technology, which has changed how we interact with objects and everything else. It is with my extreme pleasure that I introduce to the stage Sanjay Sarma. Thank you.
Till the sun comes up over Santa Monica Boulevard.
Thank you very much. This is wonderful. I should do this every time I give a lecture at MIT. I should have a group introduce me with a song. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. Actually, I want you to do a little thought experiment. Imagine you're in 1991, okay? And using a Star Trek wormhole, you can see into the future. You can see into 2017. And you see two teenagers talking to each other. And one of them says to the other, I am going to WhatsApp my location to you. Okay? And you go, what does that mean? Okay? Fortunately, there's a very smart person on the other side, and they say, I'll explain it to you. I'll explain what that means. Here's what they need to explain to you. They need to explain this thing called the internet. In 1990, you may have heard the dial-up modem, dial-up. They have to say the internet is now everywhere. They have to explain to you about wireless. They have to explain to you that the suitcase with the telephone in 1990 would one day become this. They would explain to you that the screen is this big, that a lead-acid battery can be compressed to a lithium-ion battery and fit inside the screen, behind the screen. They have to explain to you that every one of these guys is connected to the internet wirelessly. They would have to explain to you that that gigantic thing that you see on a boat for location called GPS can be miniaturized and will fit inside this. They have to explain to you that the world's maps are inside this. They have to explain to you something called social networking, something called WhatsApp, which was acquired by a company called Facebook for $19 billion. I'll tell you about Facebook afterwards. And that every teenager has one of these things. Okay? This is the new language that we are so used to. I'll WhatsApp my location to you. 17 years. Imagine the sweep of technology that fit into a few nouns and verbs. 17 years, so much has changed. The Internet of Things is similar. It's a new design language. It is going to help us say things, invent verbs, invent nouns that did not exist 2 years ago. For example, connectivity. Obviously, we all know connectivity. Here's another one, composability. The idea is that you can take in this thing GPS and combine it with a WhatsApp and create a new functionality. Or you can take the compass and combine it with WhatsApp, with GPS and create a new functionality. You can sort of mix and match. So connectivity, composability. The third, very important, is immersion. You will get immersed in this new world, right? And finally, recruitability, which is this guy can recruit the functionality of a Bluetooth beacon and tell you where you are. And they can join hands and create new functionality. This device and another device and another device can join hands and create a new functionality. These are the new nouns and verbs of the 21st century. And the Internet of Things is just an invention of a whole new language. But what use is a language if you don't write a beautiful story with it? So for a moment, let's forget about Internet of Things. Let's talk about something completely different. It is my view that the Internet of Things is not about technology. It is about inventing new business narratives. In fact, I have a book about it. If I could ask my colleagues to put up the slide about this book. The Internet of Things is about inventing. The next slide, please, the one with my book, which I won't advertise to this crowd. So, the Internet of Things is using this language to talk about new businesses. Let's use Amazon. Werner gave a very nice talk about Amazon. When Amazon was founded, it was about selling books. You sold books. But actually, Amazon has completely changed its business now. They're not about books anymore. They own your reading experience. Right? First they sold books, then they came out with Kindle. The traditional company is based on products. So the Kindle, if you're a traditional company, is a product. Books, Kindle. But the moment the iPad, the iPhone, the Android phone came out, they released apps. Why? Because they don't care about the product. They care about your experience. They don't want to own books. They want to own reading. This is what we call inversion. It used to be that companies were all about products, and the customer would have to bend over backwards to use the product. But what has happened is the opposite. The company tries to give the customer an experience and wraps itself flexibly around the customer. And if you look around you, this is happening everywhere. Take, for example, Uber. What does Uber do? Uber is founded when the founders of Uber said, I wish I could do this, and a car showed up. Uber is not a car company. Uber is a transportation company. They solve the problem of transportation. Ford is a car company. Uber solves a transportation problem. Ford now has realized this, and recently they acquired a company called Chariot because they need to get into a new business, which is not the product, but solving the problem and the experience. And that's what we call inversion. Companies have to invert themselves from product companies to owning the experience. I will make the argument that Uber is actually an Internet of Things company. Why? All they did was they took a dumb car, they took a smartphone, they put it in the car, and the car became a smart car. It has GPS, it has connectivity, you have GPS, it connects you, Problem solved. Uber is an inverted company. Volkswagen is a traditional product company. Ford is trying to invert itself by getting into the service business. Here's another example. Airbnb. To me, Airbnb is an inverted company. So where does the Internet of Things come into Airbnb? The language of the Internet of Things is a natural way for companies like Airbnb to adopt this technology. It's a natural way to rethink the way you do business. When Airbnb was founded, if you got an Airbnb room, you went and met the owner and she gave you the key. Not anymore, because naturally they use internet-controlled locks. Because it's easier to email a key than to meet the person and give them the key. So forget about IoT. Forget it. Think about inverted business models. I guarantee you, you will need the new language of IoT, which is connectedness, composing new functionality, recruiting other functionality, and immersion to create a magical experience. Here's another example. We talked about Uber. We talked about Airbnb. Think about a Spanish company, eCultra. You know the scooter company? How many of you have used eCultra? Can I see a show of hands? How many of you know about eCultra? Well, everyone knows about it. Good, thank heavens. So, eCultra is an IoT company. We think of it as a scooter rental company, but actually it's an IoT company, right? Vespa is threatened by eCultra because eCultra is solving a problem by being inverted. Vespa is a product company. eCultra is an inverted company. Forget IoT, it'll get pulled right in because to book, to pick up, to drop off, they need IoT, right? So the way to think about the Internet of Things is not as a technology. Forget the technology. Even the way to think about machine learning is not as a technology. The way to think about robotics is not as a technology. These are new capabilities to invent inverted businesses which care and adapt to the needs of the customer. Your coffee machine should not be a coffee machine. The maker of coffee machines should try and figure out how to own your breakfast experience, your morning experience. So when I go to my coffee machine, I'm stuck there for my Nespresso machine. I'm stuck there for 3 minutes. You know, it heats up, it makes my Nespresso. I would love for it to just flash my schedule. I would love for it maybe to play the news. Speakers are very cheap, okay? It doesn't have to be even internet connected. It could just recruit my iPhone and just play my news to me. It needs to make my morning experience better. A mattress company is not a mattress company. The inversion is, it's a sleep company. You got to figure out how to make sleep more enjoyable. There are already a bunch of companies in the United States that are thinking this way, with names like Sleep Number. They change the flexibility of the mattress, and they do other things. Already, using a wearable, you can see how well you slept. Did you get REM, rapid eye movement in your sleep? Were you sleeping fitfully? Was it too hard? Maybe it should become soft. So this is the way to think of these technologies, is to change the experience. With that in mind, now I want to spend a few minutes. I have to say this because we had Amazon here. The Alexa, right? Echo. How many of you, is it popular in Spain? How many of you use the Echo? I recommend, if you can get your hands on it, buy it. Pay me afterwards, okay? Buy it. I own 4. In my lab at MIT, we are hacking echoes. I have a Google Home talking to an Echo. I have taken the Echo, the Alexa, and I've put it on a Raspberry Pi. Just as a joke, I had them talk to each other circularly. Hey Echo, hey Google, hey, they go in circles. It is a stunning new invention because what the Echo has done is it owns your kitchen experience. Okay? What is going to happen in my view, what Amazon is on is a fantastic journey. It's an IoT journey, but remember, forget IoT. It's the experience. Amazon owns the kitchen experience in my family. In fact, the next step for them is to go to a new world that I refer to as when things buy things. TBT. You don't buy things. The coffee machine orders the Nespresso. Okay? It's like your app store. No one replenishes the apps. They update on their own. Your dishwasher is going to order the replacement pods automatically. So what Amazon did with the Echo is they own your kitchen experience. It's a fascinating thing. They're not trying to sell you books. They're not trying to sell you products. You can get the news. You can get the weather. They just own the experience. And everything else will follow. Oh, you can turn the lights on. You can unlock your door. You can order an Uber. That's the way to think about IoT. Never say IoT. Figure out what the hell we're trying to do in business. The IoT and other technologies will follow. So now I want to just spend 5 minutes talking about some challenges. I have found a lot of Internet of Things implementations are short-sighted, are brittle, unthought out, unsecured, and dangerous. Let me explain. Let us say that this beautiful conference room, we decide to implement IoT. Let's say that we say when the door is turned on, the lights should come on. Okay, easy. So you call your favorite vendor. Vendor comes along. The vendor's favorite protocol is Wi-Fi. So they connect the door sensor by Wi-Fi to the lights switch. Beautiful, you're happy. The door comes on, lights come on. Okay. Then you decide that when the number of people in this room exceeds 200, I want the AC, the air conditioner, to go to boost mode. So you call your HVAC vendor. They come along. They have infrared cameras. They can count the number of people. They make sure the lights are on, so they talk Wi-Fi to the lights, but they like Bluetooth. So they have a Bluetooth connection to the HVAC system. Okay. Then you decide that when the stage is occupied, these lights need to come on. So you call another vendor. So the third vendor comes along, uses Zigbee. This is the world we're in right now. Now you might say, well, there should not be Bluetooth and Zigbee and Wi-Fi. We should have one standard. Forget it. It's too late. There are going to be many standards. In fact, it's a good thing because each standard has a different bandwidth, different latency, different range, different power consumption. We're going to have multiple standards. So what do? You end up with this crazy implementation where now if the light breaks, the electrician changes the light bulb, he doesn't know, should I use Bluetooth or Wi-Fi? Everything is broken down. So right now, most of our implementations are extremely brittle and not scalable. The answer to the question, in my view, is avatars. The cloud. Amazon can pay me later. Okay, here's why. The best way to connect that light bulb to that door is not directly. The best way to do it is to have the door mirrored in the cloud with a door avatar. The light mirrored in the cloud with a light avatar. And it does not matter whether the door uses Wi-Fi to get to the cloud or whether the light uses Zigbee or Bluetooth, it does not matter. What happens now is when the door opens, the cloud door opens. The cloud door tells the cloud light, come on. Cloud light tells this light, come on. My view is the future of the Internet of Things is through the cloud. Of course, if you need things to be real time, you may not be able to do that. But most things are not real time. Most things can wait a half second. But if you do things in the cloud, you can maintain easily, you can upgrade easily, you can implement easily, and it's an easy design metaphor for you to think about how to implement something. If you take that approach, you can do what I'm saying to you. Forget about the technology. Forget it. Magic is happening today in technology. What we can do in machine learning, the Internet of Things, robotics, all these things is magical. But if you apply the discipline that I just explained, you don't have to worry about it too much. What you should worry about is, what the hell are you trying to do with the technology? Internet of Things is not something you can buy. It's not a product. There is no IoT store. You can't pay for it. Internet of Things strategy also, you can't buy it. It's a very fundamental inversion of the way you run your business. And it's an inversion that customers seek, and companies like Amazon and Tesla and Google and eCultra are delivering as an experience. And that's where your customers are going. So my request to you, my appeal to you, my encouragement to you is, let's all have guts, as Maria said, the gumption, and think into the future of where our business wants to be, and use the technology to get there. Thank you very much. A really great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. You're really getting into the mood there. I love it, this dynamic we got going on. Thanks a million. Thank you so much to Sanjay. It's just wonderful to hear about these technologies, and I think one is led in pretty nice after the other, after talking with Werner earlier and thinking about how we're engaging with products and services and the things that are enabling through IoT, and how we're going to change like a mattress into a sleeping service, right? And how an electronic scooter company here, eCultra, is actually like an IoT company. So it's really interesting how he frames things and encourages to think really innovatively about building new companies and solutions. Folks, our next session is another interview, fireside chat, with two titans of the European tech industry. You do not want to miss this conversation. We have an expert in the area of VC, a serial entrepreneur who's now on the dark side with a venture firm, a huge European international venture firm investing right across the continent. And we also have COO of, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most successful European tech companies that exist today. How these guys have thought about innovating and executing ideas has absolutely changed the way people are thinking about building companies. And it's with my absolute pleasure and excitement that I welcome to the stage Bernardo Hernandez, the eVentures, and Johannes Bruder from Rocket Internet. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, almost good afternoon. Thank you, all of you, for being here, and thank you, Johannes, for joining us. You are a German entrepreneur, and a serial entrepreneur, and now the COO of Rocket Internet, based in Berlin. You've been exposed for a long time to hundreds of projects, some of them very successful. Let's start talking a little bit about the common denominators of what is a successful project. When you see, a pitch deck, an entrepreneur, what are those intuition triggers that actually, ring a bell in your mind and say, I've seen this before, there is a pattern recognition here, and this is going to be successful? What are those common denominators of a successful project?
Yeah, it's a very good question for the start. I think if one first looks at not the specific company but business model, it's for us 3 things. So most successful companies that I've seen, and also companies with business models that we like to incubate and where we like to invest, is business models that offer a substantial value proposition. So nothing marginal, but a substantial, pretty unique proposition to customers. It sounds trivial, but it's actually pretty significant. So for example, we invested in one company called Movinga. It's an online moving company, so you can go to the website, you enter how big your apartment is, and they will tell you a fixed price for moving all your goods from city A to city B, and they will show up. They ensure quality, it's a very simple, straightforward way to move your stuff between cities. And that is, if you think about how it is today, moving is still something where you take up the phone and it's very annoying. People have to come to your home and take a look, and then they offer you a price. So that's a substantial improvement. Second thing is that we like defensibility. So clearly we like businesses, and we see also success in spaces that are not too crowded in terms of competition initially. What happens later is a different question. And then for the third part, in terms of business model, there is a German word called bodenständig, which means essentially grounded. So we like businesses that are grounded in reality. Yeah? So that address problems that consumers have in their everyday life, but also that perhaps SMEs have in their everyday life. So this is kind of business model. If you would ask me about, for each company, the most important success factor is that initially the founders of the company have done everything themselves, so that they really learned their business. But then at the right point, they were able to hire this very strong second level. Because this very strong second level, like a group of really great people that the founders are able to attract and then retain, this is what gets you from a good company to a really big, amazing company. This is, for me, the key driver to scaling a company, is this second level of people. And that's tremendously difficult, because with those people you compete with basically the very best employers in the world. So that's companies who can do that after the first, second year, not before, but after the first, second year, they tend to play out very well.
So interesting. So solving a real problem that affects ideally hundreds of millions of people, scalable around the world, rounded to reality, meaning that it's a real problem, another problem that you create from nothing, and then the ability to create a team that can scale and work very effectively, with the founders. That's actually a really good point. Takes me to second question that I would like to ask you, which is probably related to this form building, attracting talent. In the US, you've been in California, you've been in San Francisco, everything is happening there in the valley. Like, along, 101 or 280, you have like, $3 trillion worth of, innovation in value. And it's easy to hire, it's easy to see investors. You have a really good initial market, access to capital, access to talent, access to technology, and everything is happening there. In Europe, we are all spread around the continent. You live in Berlin, which it's becoming one of the main hubs with more than $2 billion in VC investment last year. But then you have Stockholm, and then you have Barcelona, and then you have Paris, and then you have Amsterdam and London, of course, and Madrid and Lisbon. Moving across those cities is harder. Access to capital is spread out. In Italian, it's also hard to move from the US to Europe because of this, different regulations across the countries. How do you see the ecosystem being different, the US versus Europe, or what are the challenges of building companies in Europe and how can we overcome those challenges to compete with Silicon Valley?
Yeah, a great ecosystem for technology entrepreneurship needs, I think at least needs 5 components. And if you miss one, it will slow you down. It might not break you, but it will slow you down a lot. And I think this is also something we have seen in Europe. So obviously you need great talent. And this is founders, but also experts for technology and marketing. So you need talent, you need investors, you need large corporates, and you need universities. Yeah, so and kind of this ecosystem that comes from these components, and I think most importantly, between the startups, the large corporates, and there's a dynamic around companies that might fail. So then you can go to a large digital startup. So you build a startup, it fails, you go to Google. You recharge for 3 years. You find a new team, you build a new startup. Yeah, so this is very
acqui-hires, they call it.
Yeah, but what I'm aiming at is we have great investors now in Europe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, access to venture capital, which has been a large issue, is not an issue anymore. Even though still, I think 80% of venture capital go into US and China, but Europe has improved a lot, and we have venture capital. We also have, I think, the talent. Yeah, and this includes both now experienced entrepreneurs who perhaps have already built their first company, could have failed, might have also worked, but in the end, this is the first kind of key experience that you need to do better the next time. So you have these experienced entrepreneurs all over Europe, not just Berlin or not just Madrid, not just London, they are everywhere. You also have great universities. Yeah? It's also probably not Stanford, but great universities. What is missing a little bit in Europe still is this corporate component. Mm-hmm. Like corporates that really go all into this huge disruption that is happening. So what you have in the Valley ecosystem, and they enable people to recharge after a failure. They are exit opportunities. They also invest in young companies for many reasons. And this is something where I think Europe is overall lagging still.
What do you think needs to change? Do they need to invest directly, creating funds? Because some companies are doing that. They're either becoming LPs to venture funds, or they're creating their own funds. Amerigo and Telefonica, for example, and do they need to invest directly into the companies? Do they need to be open to acquire? Many of them, they have done acquisitions that, most of them, they haven't been successful, and they say, oh, this model doesn't work. They don't know how to integrate, the innovation business model into the existing legacy business model of those corporations. They don't even know how to integrate the talent and make it work with the rest of the company. What do you think is the best way for that to change? I agree with you. It's a huge component, and until we do that, I don't think the ecosystem will be developed.
I think the most successful corporates that are now really seeing it both as important and urgent, like that really go all in, they're doing multiple things, and they don't focus just on doing selective direct investments or kind of investing into a fund, but perhaps they do their own incubator accelerator, they invest into a fund, they do strategic investments, and they also try to build companies themselves, probably with a joint venture with a VC fund or an incubator. We have also done that, and I think that is the right approach. You need to take it very urgent and important, and then try multiple things. There is no silver bullet.
There is no one try. I've seen, in my experience, I've seen how I call it the corporate magma of the existing corporations. It's very dangerous, and they can eat up alive. Any small team of innovators that come without jackets and wearing sneakers. So I think it's very important to protect them, from all of that. And sometimes even some of the companies are trying the model of reporting directly into the president of the company, protecting that talent. So they can maintain those principles and those innovating values. I think it's very important too. So, so I agree with you. I'm not sure what needs to change. When we look for exits, and you probably see that too, it's really hard to find a corporation in Europe that actually sees, a startup, as something valuable to buy. And that needs to change. The corporate development, departments in large corporations in Europe, I think they need to start seeing the startups as possible targets and acquire Google, Apple, and Facebook. They buy 80, 100 companies a year. You know how many does Deutsche Telekom or Telefonica buy a year? Startups.
I think, to be fair, that this change is happening, and most importantly, I think what you, from a corporate point of view, need to understand, which I think is very important for building great companies, is this incentive as an entrepreneur, and that is equity. So great entrepreneurs kind of, and it sounds simplistic, but in this case, if they build a company, it needs an option for the kind of, they need to have the potential to become rich. Yep. And this is something that many corporates struggle, like setting up these incentives. They think in terms of very standardized incentive schemes, kind of with a bonus and a fixed salary. So, but kind of investing into a startup and possibly joint ventures also with startups and investors can set up, kind of release these real entrepreneurial incentives. And that is, I think, the little boost that is absolutely required to build a great company.
Okay. I'm very optimistic, and I think it's happening, and I think it's going to happen more and more. I've seen changes already underway. What do you think are the main trends of innovation and investing? Like, are you looking into marketplaces, artificial intelligence? What are the things that you think are you going to be putting time and effort because they're going to be disruptive or with great capital gains potentially?
So that we can discuss an hour.
Yeah.
I think so. One area that is very exciting is B2B services for SMEs for a very simple reason. Now imagine Sunday evening you're at home and you're ordering a pizza. You take out your app, or you're ordering kind of sushi. You take out your app and it comes to you 30 minutes later. Now next morning, Monday, you go to the office and perhaps you need to ship some goods from port A to city B. Today, basically, you will have to pick up the phone or you write a fax, somebody calls you back, then you have to fill out a sheet. So it's the opposite to the same experience that you had an evening earlier. And I think what will happen is that the people who are increasingly spending their money online in their private life, they kind of have the same expectation to do that when they come to the office. So there's a fundamental shift in how also people, employees, want to kind of spend corporate money, and that will pull on new digital solutions in the B2B space.
So it's B2B, so B2B efficiency tools, SaaS tools.
Yeah, it's an interesting space that we closely look. I think also the kind of on a very broad term, vertical integration is a very exciting domain. So if you mentioned marketplaces, and for a long time, if you think about a food delivery marketplace where basically you just connect users with restaurants, facilitate a transaction, but ultimately the restaurant is responsible to get the food to the user. And you are in the middle, you're taking a cut, and for a long time this was supposed to be the end game in food delivery, but then the kind of vertically integrated food delivery model came, where you also do the logistics. You have all the riders that go to restaurants and ship the food to the users. So this is an example of vertical integration. And why is that so powerful? Because ultimately you can unlock new restaurants that were unable to do their own delivery. Also great restaurants, basically. This allows you to, because probably kind of consumers appreciate that the lifetime value is higher, you can spend more on customer acquisition also. So kind of this sets off a whole new dynamic, how a new variation of a business model kind of unlocks a new part of demand. So vertical integration, a deeper integration into the value chain, taking more responsibility for the customer experience is, I think, very exciting, and you'll see innovation in many markets there. And another thing that I think is very exciting are these new direct-to-consumer brands, also vertically integrated. So gone are the old days where you had a producer, you had a distributor, you had a retailer, and then at the bottom was a customer. Kind of new companies, similar to the Warby Parkers of this world, they do all of these things together. They produce themselves and then sell it directly to customers, building a strong brand. And it's also very exciting to attack established markets.
Anything on fintech? What do you think is going to happen? Are you guys thinking or doing anything on that space?
Yeah, so also very exciting domain, especially nowadays, as on the demand side, I think the consumers have become much more sophisticated in terms of online, and the willingness to go into a bank has probably diminished a little bit more. So the unbundling of banks, where one bank offered loans and kind of a savings account and all these things together into specific solutions is also a huge opportunity. And I think especially starting last year, this year, next year, we will see many exciting companies there.
Okay. What about exits? I mean, you guys are a public company. You know, valuations change a lot. I'm sure you can't say much about the details of the financials of all of that. But what is when you start a company, a big motivation for the founder is not only to change the world and to be driven and all that, but also to actually make money. From the perspective of the exits. You mentioned before that corporate development and acquisitions by corporations in Europe is limited. What are the options in Europe for a meaningful exit? What is in the US the market is more dynamic. Both on the corporate side and then on the IPO. When it comes to the exits, what do you think is the situation in Europe?
So structurally, the options are the same as in the US, I believe, but probably the weights are a little bit different. But I wouldn't encourage founders to worry about that too much. So my observation is that as long as they focus on building a great company and they manage to do that, the exit question tends to solve itself much more easily. And I think, yes, IPOs are an option, but as we see the corporates kind of facing the challenge of digital more and more kind of fiercely, that's also an increasing option. So I would kind of really encourage companies to focus on building the great company.
Building a great company
and not think you meet companies kind of pre-seed that share an idea with you, and they third slide they discuss kind of how easy it will be to exit the company.
I mean,
that is.
To tell you the truth, that is true, but a very small percentage, like 0.04% of all the companies that get funded at some point, they actually make it to be over $40 million. So the chances of a big success are small. And there's actually a lot of companies that actually, they don't fail, but I remember a conversation in the Valley a couple of years ago with a large VC partner, and he said, most of my time I end up having to sell not great companies, but decent companies that unless I help them to sell the company, it would be very hard for the entrepreneurs to get an outcome. It's not a failure, but it's not a huge success either. It's that mid-ground, that for whatever reason didn't get to be a big success. But we're in the US with a little bit of help from the VCs and even from the entrepreneurs, you can find an exit. That's hard to see in Europe. Based on my experience, you find all these portfolios where either they're a big success or the company is going to keep trailing there forever till either they close down or they just become an ongoing success without a meaningful exit. So I think from my experience, I think in Europe we have this big challenge of taking care of that mid part of the curve that is not the head of the tail and it's not the long tail, but it's this product that actually gonna do 1x or 2x for the investors. They don't become huge successes, and you have a few of those probably in your portfolio, where they don't become huge, but they're not a failure either, and I think many entrepreneurs, they actually find themselves in that situation where they would like to see a more developed market for exits. That is not necessarily to be. I mean, if you're a big success, of course, you don't have to worry about anything. But a lot of companies, they're doing okay. They're doing okay, and they just need help to become liquid, to realize the value creation in the equity that they've done over a few years. But I don't think in Europe is very successful. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. It becomes much easier, the more successful you are, of course, the easier it becomes also to raise the next round. But the structural problem that you address, that there is in Europe an issue with later stage growth investments, I think also that has been true, but it's also changed. It's changing very rapidly. So, and I think in the next years, you won't have the situation that good companies and great companies will not find funding. But what will continue to happen is that companies that basically cannot convince investors, even though the capital is there, that they won't be able to secure funding. That is, the inherent part of this market.
Okay, perfect. We don't have time for much. Thank you for being with us, and I'll see you in Berlin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Woo! Excellent. Thanks, guys. I'm going to have to start dancing. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're going to continue swiftly along with our next session. Amazing to hear how Rocket Internet have built what they've built, and they really were the first guys doing that. And thanks so much as well for Bernardo for getting the best out of Johannes and sharing some of their secret sauce about how they have been so successful. Our next session is addressing a topic of extreme importance to any startup ecosystem. I think particularly interesting to what's happening with technology in Europe today, and of course within Spain as well. And it's talking about the exit. At the end of the day, starting a company is often with the vision to an end. That might be an acquisition, that might be global growth, joint ventures, partnerships, or it might actually be an IPO. Some of the massive distant dreams of many of the early stage founders who are launching companies. Spain has still yet to get its unicorn, right? There's a couple in the short list. We start taking bets. Cabify, Alien Vault, Cytle, Wallapop, right? But they're so close, but they're not there just yet. And this next session discusses a way that might just get us there. We have an extremely interesting conversation taking place with a senior vice president from one of the largest and most competitive IPO markets in the world, and also facilitated with one of the most high-level investment bankers doing a lot of the best technology, one of the insiders who's already taken one company to a massive IPO in Europe, which is Jonas, who we're going to bring back to the stage. So without further ado, please join me on stage, Enrique Perez from Morgan Stanley, Jonas transactions and M&As across Europe, and of course from one of the insiders who's already taken one company to a massive IPO in Europe, which is Jonas, who we're going to bring back to the stage. So without further ado, please join me on stage, Enrique Perez from Morgan Stanley, Jonas back on the stage from Rocket Internet, and Adam Costal as well, Senior VP at NASDAQ. Thanks.
Right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Enrique Perez Hernández. I'm with Morgan Stanley on our technology team in Europe. More importantly, very pleased to be here with Johannes Bruder and Adam Kostia. Johannes, you just heard about from the previous panel, COO of Rocket Internet, and Adam, Senior VP at NASDAQ. And as Liz just anticipated, we wanted to spend the next 30 minutes discussing a little bit the merits of going public, how to think about the technology space, how to prepare for such an event, which takes a lot of preparation, a lot of hard work, but then hopefully is a very rewarding experience. I guess I wanted to just get the discussion going, talking a little bit about what makes a successful IPO. So when a company is thinking about whether they are IPO ready, what are the key factors, either from an investor perspective, as you look at it, Adam, on the stock exchange side, or Johannes, in your case, when you're working with your portfolio companies, what are the key variables that people should be thinking about in terms of IPO readiness? I don't know, do you want to get started, Adam?
Well, maybe before we dive into that, just to explain, I cover our Nordic markets, and which is Stockholm, Helsinki, and Copenhagen, which is the European ecosystem. We can talk a bit about that, because I think one of the challenges is that the perception in Europe is that you have to be huge to list, whilst there is an ecosystem here which is developing and which is interesting for smaller companies. So that's one struggle that we're seeing. And the other aspect is that we work with